Up next, we have a panel discussion. It's on fintech and what does rise in fintech actually means for firms and customers. So I'd like to introduce the panelists. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome Mr. Jayesh Chaudhary Garu. Please. Jayesh Chaudhary Garu is the Special Chief Secretary and IT Advisor to Chief Minister Government of AP. He is popularly known as Jay, and he is one of the chief architects of information technology industry in India. High-tech city and all these are as a result of him as well. So he is a pretty eminent guy with a lot of experiences. And I don't know how many of you know, but the iPod, some of the key critical components were actually built out of Hyderabad. So I think, sir has a wonderful story to tell on that. Up next, we would like to introduce our most disruptive CEO, Mr. Neil Cross. Please. So he's the Chief Innovation Officer of DBS Bank, and he has multiple stints over the past 20 years in innovation space and fintech space. So he's a wonderful person as well on this panel. I would like to also introduce Shruti Royuru. She's a marketing and product specialist, and she's working with a company called Wealth Objects, which is actually one of the top 100 fintech companies in Europe. So I think she has a wonderful experiences to share as well being part of the company. Yeah, and also on the panel, I'd like to introduce Mr. Rama Iyer. Please, sir. He's a Senior Vice President and he's handling innovation and strategic alliances at T-Hub. He has over 20 years experience in this field across different things. He has worked with corporates. He has advised Naya Ventures. He has a range of experiences to share, and now they're trying to do something amazing at T-Hub. So please welcome, sir. And Shruti would be moderating the panel, so over to them.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We are joined by a diverse panel. Neil from DBS, Jay from the government, and Rama, who is running initiatives at T-Hub. And we're here to talk about what the rise in fintech means for firms and its customers. We have just 30 minutes, so we'll quickly cover fintech innovation, open APIs, financial inclusion, and what the future of fintech holds. I'll probably start off with a few statistics on fintech. Now, the world has seen more than 12,000 fintech startups bringing seamless digital experience and innovation in financial services. 2015 saw a massive uprise in fintech investments, with more than double of fintech investments of 2014. And there were a few concerns about how it will turn out in 2016, but to our surprise, 2016 saw a 67% increase from the previous year, and most of the investments went into Europe and Asia Pacific. Fintech is transforming our environment from payments to lending to investing to blockchain. We are at the cusp of a major financial services revolution, and with that, I'd like to turn to each of the panelists, and we'll probably talk about what the role of fintech and innovation is in your day-to-day work environment. Rama, you want to start first?
Sure. Thanks for having me here, and I appreciate the crowd, even though we are sitting in between their lunch. I appreciate you guys listening to us. Let me kind of start at a very broad level where fintech today is one of the most promising verticals, and it's absolutely an exciting space for a whole bunch of reasons. I think it's a perfect storm, in my opinion, especially from an Indian context, where you have a lot of things happening. On one side, you have the whole India stack evolving, which includes the UIDAI, the UPI, RuPay, which are strong instruments trying to break the backbone of existing card payment networks. It also gives you a lot of tools as an innovator to look at business models in a very different way. And there are a lot of startups who are queuing up to exactly do that. So now I'll just kind of tease that and pass it on to my co-panelists to add to that.
Yeah, this is an exciting time, particularly in the areas of fintech. My recent experience with fintech industry, when I was attending a global conference at Singapore, I met a lot of the big-time CEOs, DBS CEO Piyush Gupta, and Citibank CEO, all those people were on the panel. They were talking about the future of banking industry. In fact, Piyush Gupta made a comment that banks will get closed, maybe in 10, 15 years from now, but banking will continue. That's where the opportunity is for the fintech industry. And of course, the DBS is taking a lead in that area. one of the other panelists was telling that we are not able to find professionals for the fintech industry because it's expanding a lot, but we need more fintech professionals, but unfortunately we are not able to get the people who can work in the fintech area. Then afterwards I met the MAS Monetary Authority of Singapore. It's the equivalent of our RBI in India. One Mr. Mohanty is the CEO of MAS. And he was telling that because Singapore after the Brexit, lot of fintech companies from UK, particularly from London, they are moving to Singapore, and Singapore government wants to create a lot of ecosystem for the fintech industry. But the problem for MAS Singapore, what they are facing is they are not able to get the right kind of resources. That's when the Andhra Pradesh government decided to have an MOU with MAS and also some of the fintech companies in Singapore as well as fintech companies in India. So we are at this point of time, we want to create Visakhapatnam as the fintech valley, where a lot of fintech companies actually collaborating with some of the universities and engineering colleges, creating the manpower for the fintech industry. Now, particularly after this new events happened in the cyber attacks on the fintech industry, everybody is talking about the new technology called blockchain technologies. So that's where now Andhra Pradesh government is again setting up one very innovative institution with association from University of California, Berkeley. UC Berkeley is setting up a blockchain institute at Visakhapatnam. So Visakhapatnam, we want to create the fintech valley by creating the professionals who can work in that industry, because huge opportunities will be there, not only for the startup companies, even for the services companies in the fintech area. So our concentration at this point of time we are very much focused in the fintech area, because as Piyush was mentioning, the banks are getting closed, but banking industry will continue using the technology. That's where our government is focusing on.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah, so, fintech's evolving a lot. Initially, it very much started as it was fintech versus banks. And you heard a lot of fintechs going, we're going to kill banks, which is very ambitious to kill companies that are worth like 50 billion US dollars. But you've got to admire the spirit of that thing. And so over time, many of those are migrated into partnership models, realizing that actually banks have huge scale customer bases, they have license, they know how to do risk and regulation. So we're seeing a mass move now away from those same fintechs that said they were going to kill banks, and now actually actively partnering with banks and improving the offering that finance delivers. The term fintech will disappear soon, and people will just call it finance. That finance has changed, and the whole world of finance goes all the way from, kind of fintech, e-commerce companies, banks, insurers, cap markets. At DBS, we're very close to fintech. We've done 7 accelerators. Whichever region that I put a lab in, we stimulate the fintech and accelerate the fintech economy very, very quickly. We've accelerated over 100 fintechs in the last 2 years, and then we're opening a lab in Hyderabad, and we're going to do the same here. So watch this space.
Well, we're looking forward to that, definitely. And Rama, you work with T-Hub. Could you talk about some initiatives that you're doing with firms at T-Hub?
Sure. So, always good to hear Neil and the way he kind of, responds to things. So obviously, on the last note, obviously banks are going to transform, not that they're going to get extinct or anything, and that is happening. On the question of what we are doing at T-Hub, today we are crisscrossing across verticals, and for today's focus, let me touch upon a few things that we are specifically doing on the fintech side. One, obviously, we are running an accelerator as well with a pretty innovative and one of the largest bank in India in terms of the contours of the program. What we are also bringing to the table, which is again a very unique thing from an India and a worldwide perspective, is we are trying to build an infrastructure of sort which crisscrosses the various hardware stack, which includes an HPC high-power cluster and having fault tolerance on the backplane, which allows innovators to build applications which are commercial and deployment grade. So these are things that we want to bring to the table in terms of what we offer going beyond this whole thematic co-working, which is just kind of, the chairs and tables of the world, right, which is kind of done and dusted in our mind. So we are hell-bent in bringing the top value and making it the place in terms of whatever startup wants today, not only on the tech framework, but also in terms of partnership and relation. And we are obviously also working with Neil and DBS and trying to see what further we can do in that.
Thank you. And you spoke about India Stack recently, and MAS is doing so much in terms of open APIs in Singapore as well. What impact and opportunities do you think open APIs would provide for financial institutions? Primarily, recently we saw UPI rolled out commercially through many, many banks.
Sure. So I just kind of started talking about the India Stack, which is kind of a conglomeration of various modules. And today, the UIDAI, which is Aadhaar, is one of the most phenomenal story in terms of what has happened in terms of India and the fintech as a whole. We have like 100 crore people who are now enabled because of that. And it is one of the largest API worldwide in terms of what it touches. It has the power to kind of process hundreds of millions of transactions going across a billion tuple records at a massive speed. So in terms of API, I think India Stack and what Nandan has started with the whole Aadhaar, and it just kind of keeps getting better in terms of the biometrics that is on offer, in terms of the validation. eKYC is a big thing, and now people are using Aadhaar, which includes DBS here and many other banks who are looking at verification through that mechanism, and also creating bank accounts for people, which talks to your thing of financial inclusion and how it can really kind of disrupt the whole space.
I think you touched upon a really important topic, that's financial inclusion. But Neil, before we jump into financial inclusion, could you talk about how DBS is being involved with MAS in Singapore, because they are being pioneers in promoting open API architectures?
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly one of the leaders. All the regulators at the moment are trying to they have a competition to see who can be the coolest regulator. Unfortunately, RBI is a bit behind on that. I think the ones who are certainly talking a good game, London, Singapore and Sydney. But RBI actually has done some amazing work around, payment licenses and other stuff, which Singapore hasn't done yet. I think the thing is, it's very tough for regulators because they have two sides of the business. One is the ones who actually do the regulation, and the other side is the market development. Regulators are really focused on, protecting customers, but also at the same time building a healthy ecosystem. So it's a very difficult balance. I wouldn't like to be a regulator at the moment. It's all changing too quickly. So they've done a number of initiatives. They're paying banks and insurers to, supporting them to set up their innovation labs. We've got the Fintech Festival coming. We do a lot of work with them. I help them set up an innovation committee. They're really pushing, this open API thing at the moment, and they're trying to attract more fintech into Singapore. They recently opened their lab, which I went to, and they're generally trying to find a healthy middle ground between getting banks to open up their systems. Historically, banks never open their systems for a very good reason. Those ones and zeros in the bank database are people's lives. They're their home, they're their retirement, they're their kids' education. But as the realization is that actually nobody has ever done banking, nobody's bought a mortgage yet, that they're having a baby, or they're moving to a new country, and so they're in a journey. And so the promise of APIs is actually, rather than they stop that journey, then come to a bank, actually with APIs we could insert ourselves inside that journey seamlessly and help them to commit on that kind of financial milestone.
That's a very, very, very good point. Sorry.
Yeah, just to add to the RBI regulatory thing, I think RBI has been pretty innovative. That way, just kind of adding up to what Neil said, the whole setting up of NPCI and what it has done today in terms of bringing the hundreds of banks to the same platform, and today as many of us have read, seen and listened of all the things that UPI does, it is phenomenal. I mean, look at today, every e-commerce transaction, the overhead in terms of what you pay, and that goes to an intermediate proxy, which is, the card banking platform, typically a MasterCard or a Visa. How do you kind of get rid of that as much as you can and save that for everyone, including the innovators, including the banking intermediaries, which has to be there, and obviously for the end consumers, if that benefit can be passed on. And that exactly what UPI entails today, where today, I'll give an example. I mean, today you have your banking app, and then you use something like a chiller, which kind of helps transform or transfer money from a peer-to-peer or a mobile-to-mobile. Now what UPI has done is, think of the chiller supposed app, the functionality-wise, integrated into your banking app. And now you can transfer money to anyone without needing to know your bank account or his bank account, and it is more of an ID of sorts, right? Which is a mobile ID through which you can kind of transfer. It is fast, it is cheap, and it opens up the whole ecosystem of digital inclusion for people who are bogged down with creating a bank account and the time it takes, and how do you use IFSC codes and so on. So thanks to RBI and the government agencies that are doing a phenomenal job at that.
Yeah, I think RBI done, especially around payments, some really amazing work, and far ahead of anywhere in the world, I believe, in that space.
And I think more importantly, it's the scale at which it's going at right now with UPI. So we'll quickly jump into financial inclusion. We're in India. We cannot not talk about financial inclusion. Indian bank accounts basically hold to about a fifth of the world's population. But on the other hand, India is also the third largest smartphone and mobile internet user market in the world. So what opportunities and challenges do each of you think is there in financial inclusion?
I think there is a lot of opportunities. Before our Honorable Prime Minister introduced the Jan Dhan program,
Absolutely.
millions of farmers, particularly in the rural areas, they were not having any bank accounts. Today, because of the initiative of Jan Dhan, all these millions of farmers today, they have the bank accounts. Not only having the bank account, they are operating from their smart mobiles. So seeing that an opportunity, now direct transfer benefits are also introduced. Earlier, to get any benefit, they have to go through a lot of offices, they have to pay money and all that this thing. Now all that intermediaries are taken off, they are getting directly whatever the benefits from Government of India or Government of Andhra Pradesh or any state government for that matter, they are getting all that money, benefits, subsidies, everything directly into their bank account. So looking at these opportunities, recently Andhra Pradesh government has come out with a very innovative idea of providing the fiber connectivity to every home. With that, every TV in every village home, we are converting that as a TV ATM. Instead of going to the ATM and drawing the money, we want to convert their TV at their home using the AP fiber net with all the biometrics and all that iris kind of identification kind of a mechanism, so that they can actually transfer whatever the money from one account to the other account, and whatever bank transactions they will be able to do it from their home using their digital TV mechanism. So that will definitely enhance the Fintech ecosystem in the state of Andhra Pradesh, and Andhra Pradesh wants to take the lead in that particular area.
Well, Neil, with DBS has opened a mobile-only bank in India. What sort of challenges did you face?
What challenge we didn't face? It was very ambitious. That was the thing. It was India's first mobile-only. So there's not even a website with that. We put in an artificial intelligence system that we actually ended up investing in, and we spent a lot of time with the regulator to do eKYC, so electronic know your customer. So you can download the app and you have a wallet. We all know about wallets. But then you can go into a cafe coffee day at about 500 outlets using Aadhaar. You can thumbprint, and that's your KYC, and your app then turns into a full-service bank account. We're the first bank to do that. I can't believe the local banks haven't done that before. We were quite surprised. And that took a lot of time with the regulators. Also, India is quite a challenging market. When you give offers, the consumer, you're very smart people in India. They come for the offers, and as soon as the offer's finished, they're gone again. And so, you know, that was certainly a learning for us in that space, but it's been very successful. We've done lots of partnerships. So we've done partnerships with BuildS, with Chiller, and others, and really having deals inside that as well. So it's a little bit of a deal platform. It's got a great savings rate as well, and it's very, very easy to both open an account and to utilize the system.
Yeah. So I think I'll kind of start from where Mr. Jay left, which is he started talking about the Jan Dhan program. So I think it's more popularly, colloquially referred to as the JAM program. So it is a combination of Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile. With this, today, there has been a direct disbursal of 60,000 crores, which is kind of close to $10 billion in terms of direct remittance to the end consumers. Never before this, anything close to this has happened in terms of impact, in terms of removing all the intermediaries in the banking financial system. And as we know how India works and its bureaucracy, there is very little of that which actually goes to the end consumers or farmers. So in terms of real application, real deployment, today this is kind of fact what Jan Dhan program has done to what Mr. Jay kind of referred to earlier. So in terms of financial inclusion and impact, I think we are kind of doing pretty kick-ass.
Well, absolutely, very good point made. Neil, you touched upon AI, and there has been so much. I mean, AI is not just a buzzword today. We've seen so many applications of AI. AI chatbots have come up. Facebook Messenger has opened up its APIs. So, what kind of applications do you see with AI within DBS?
I think that, you know, I've been through a lot of these kind of waves, and you know, is it the time for AI this time? You know, maybe, you know, I remember back in the old day, paperclip, you know, the Clippy inside Microsoft. It's certainly moved on a lot from there, but the promise is really in financial services is that everyone can have a personal banker. You know, you can't obviously do that for a mass consumer because you need as many staff as you've got customers. And so at a base level, being someone to engage in a financial experience in the future, just like they would with a real person, just talking into their phone, if there's going to be mobile phones in 10 years, but me personally, I don't think so. And being able to just have a conversation. AI in finance came in first through algorithmic trading systems, and then we started to see chat systems. They're in fraud systems, AML systems, where they're looking at data, trying to understand patterns in that space, and also in the wealth business. And really, the good thing about AI is it never forgets. So when it starts to engage either directly with the customer or the customer data, it starts to build profile and an understanding of that customer, which can then help the bank staff, even if the AI doesn't talk to the consumer, it can help the bank staff have a more meaningful conversation.
Actually, this morning I met one gentleman who is a very senior executive in NVIDIA graphics. When I asked him what is the new technology that NVIDIA is working on, he said we are working on DNN and CNN. What is this DNN and CNN? He says the deep neural networks and computational neural networks, and they are working on DLMs, deep learning machines. It seems that the kind of new machines which are going to come, once you make the machine operative, it will start learning the way you operate, the way you do the banking transaction. Next time when you want to do any fintech banking transaction, it already learns that you require loan, personal loan of this nature, or you require this kind of assistance and all that. So without any further this thing, the bank, the fintech technology will tell whether you are an ordinary farmer or a technology professional needing some banking transactions or any help, this thing. That is a kind of deep learning missions are coming. I think 5 to 10 years from now, the way things are going to happen is going to be totally different. Whatever happened in the fiction movies and things like that, they are going to happen soon.
Sci-fi is taking over. Rama, what do you think about AI?
Sure. So we are in fact looking at a DML/DMX deploy from NVIDIA for all things machine learning, AI and deep, includes a predictive overlay. Just to kind of touch upon, there is at least a dozen startups at T-Hub today who are looking at various facets of AI, big data analytics with a predictive top-up. There is a whole bunch of chatbot applications that's in play anyways. In terms of core fintech, one of our startups is looking at, who is in the P2P play, looking at how do you look at various social parameters, including mobile, personal, and look at a point system of how do you know that this particular customer is bankable. I mean, obviously, we're not talking about a CredI rating here or a CIBIL rating. This is beyond any formal structural rating of how do you do a validation of sort and ensure that you can lend to this person and create a marketplace, which is exactly what they have done. And the race is on in terms of where AI can go and what all it can entail in terms of the risk mitigations, in terms of challenging the various instruments that is there today, which are all collateral based. So we are kind of embarking on this very exciting journey. So startups and innovators who are working on things like AI, machine learning, I mean, there is a whole bunch of applications, especially fintech, when you look at things like algorithmic trading and the likes of it.
So if anybody is in AI, please do definitely look at fintech. It's a whole new world. Touching on emerging technologies, let's talk about blockchain, such a huge buzzword. And we've seen a lot of regulators and government agencies especially, looking at use cases of blockchain. RBI recently set up a committee to look at where they can use blockchain. So from your perspective, Jay, where do you see blockchain?
Yeah, so this new digital technologies, though it's a convenience point of view, it's very good for anybody for that matter, particularly after introducing millions of new farmers in the villages who are happily doing the cash transactions, selling their goods directly to the people. Today they have a bank account plus e-bank account from the mobile, but if somebody hacks into their mobile account and takes the entire money, we see a lot of suicide deaths because we don't have the social security system to take care of such things. So that's a big worry for all the government officials, including RBI. They're all worrying about what is going to happen if that kind of a situation, because on cyber hacks, recently whatever cyber hacks happened, recently Bangladesh, the central bank, they lost about $81 million. All the cyber attackers are attacking the big banking systems, but tomorrow they may come on ordinary farmers or people who are living in the this thing, who do not really bother about knowing about how to protect their e-banking accounts and mobile banking accounts and all that. I think in that perspective, blockchain technology looks like an opportunity. Using that new technology, probably they'll be able to stop these cyber attacks on such transactions. There's a reason why we are actually want to set up an institution for the blockchain technologies. So whatever little knowledge I have, looks like that is going to be an answer for the cyber hacking, cyber attacks on the banking industry. But it's still in the very initial stage at this point of time. But looks like there's going to be the future to take care of about the attacks on the fintech industry by cyber attackers.
That's actually a really interesting point on cyber attacks. Neil, isn't Ethereum based in Singapore? And I thought they had a cyber attack recently. Ethereum, one of the blockchain companies.
Yeah, well, Ethereum are from the US. They have offices in Singapore. Yeah, actually wasn't a cyber attack. What happened is it was a piece in code inside the blockchain which got triggered to do a transaction, and what they managed to do is to keep triggering it. So it's actually a valid transaction. They found a way, though, to keep kind of emptying the blockchain, if you will, of this is probably the simplest term of that. They did manage to fork the blockchain and stop most of it happening. But the blockchain has actually never been hacked. There's a lot of stories, all this Bitcoin got stolen. It wasn't hacked. In the simplest terms, it's like, I explain it as they never broke into the safe, they stole the keys. So that's actually
That's a
what
very
happened. The
good
safe
analogy.
is still very safe, don't worry. But somebody left their keys lying around.
Yeah.
So you see this Mt. Gox and all these others, when you hear these big Bitcoin hacks, it's not actually Bitcoin that's ever been hacked.
So what do you see from financial institutions' perspective? Because R3 Consortium is onboarding a lot of banks onto their ledger. So within DPS, where do you see the use cases of blockchain?
Well, let's just kind of look at the stats. So I managed to count up all the blockchain instances at banks in production, and they come to a grand total of 0. So there isn't any at this moment. There's also a misunderstanding. Actually, blockchain has nothing to do with finance.
Indeed.
Nothing at all. It's a piece of technology. You could either liken it to an enterprise service bus for the sky or a new type of database. It's a piece of tech. And so I've never seen a piece of tech so hyped so much. That doesn't mean that it's not going to have an impact in finance, but actually there's other industries, I think.
Supply chain as well.
Yeah, supply chain would be one. Legal, anything where you've got a physical asset or even a digital asset which you need to transfer to other parties you don't trust. So when someone talks to me about blockchain, there's a lot of people just, blockchain, they're trying to force fit blockchain into things which actually aren't suitable for it.
Yeah.
But the lens I always use is, if you're trying to connect disparate entities which don't trust each other, blockchain's really good for that. But we're seeing people trying to force blockchain for all sorts of stuff. So if you're going to do blockchain, look for those kind of scenarios. They work very well for blockchain.
Certainly. And sorry.
Looks like I understand that a lot of startup companies in the Silicon Valley who are working on the blockchain, they're all got heavily funded. And as Neil said, not only the fintech area, every segment wherever the documents have to be transferred or capital markets, everywhere blockchain technologies are going to be used. I think for a startup entrepreneurs who are sitting here, it's a good opportunity to look into this. What are the new blockchain, using the blockchain technology, what applications could be built? I think that's going to be the futuristic technologies, particularly in view of the cyber attacks happening.
Absolutely.
And particularly India with a lot of digital assets getting created. I think there's going to be huge opportunities for the startup companies who can work in the blockchain technology areas.
Absolutely. Rama, could you talk about blockchain startups in India?
I can talk about blockchain companies which are a T-Hub, if that's okay. So I think blockchain is the rage, but I think many people kind of, miss the wood for the trees, right? I think, as some of the panelists rightly said, it has nothing to do specifically with fintech. It can be applied to any vertical, any industries. Think of it as digital cryptographic certificate meets distributed big data systems. I mean, these technology has been there from 1970s. They had no reason to come together, and that's what happened today when there is a need. Think of it as a public ledger system where decentralization is the mantra. Now, you apply that nuts and bolts to various verticals. I'll give an example. We are looking at a use case of getting the blockchain technology for public government documents and knowing everything that is in the public domain which needs to be exposed, which requires a lot of processing and decentralization. And you have multiple interventions or players to kind of contribute to that whole thing. So simply that's what blockchain is. In terms of opportunity, I think we are kind of sitting on a nice disruption there as well. So good thing for innovators.
Absolutely. In the interest of time, let's just quickly wrap things up with each of the panelists talking about what the future of fintech holds.
I think we pretty much touched upon the whole thing. One big thing in my mind is what I am calling it as the CMM, where consumer meets merchant, your Kirana shop. I think to me that's the whole disruptive space. It's not one thing, it's not about transaction, it's not about payment gateway, it's not about inventory and delivery. It is about whole bunch of things where your Kirana shop could be your digital supermarket of the future. Doesn't matter the size and what it is. I mean, he's going to deliver you everything from your insurance policies to digital certificate, and that's where I think most disruption innovation will happen, and that's potentially going to be our bank or a bank branch at best?
I think it's a huge opportunity with 1.3 billion fintech customers in India itself. They need not have to look at any other customers outside the country. India itself is going to throw up a lot of opportunities for the fintech entrepreneurs, particularly building the blockchain technologies and providing not necessarily the fintech but related areas. I think there's a huge market itself in India. India is a growing market with a growing consumerism. It's happening across the country. I think it's a great opportunity for budding entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that. India's just starting its fintech journey. There's a lot of white space here. You know, if I was going to start a company, I would start in India at the moment. A really mass population, growing middle class, not much fintech. Banks not really pushing the envelope in terms of digital. For the long-term future, I think fintechs are going to get more banky, and banks are going to get more fintechy. So watch in India with excitement, with things like Aadhaar, the payments gateway. There's great infrastructure here, and come on, let's see some more fintechs coming out of India and globalizing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Neil, Jay, Rama. Thanks a lot for coming over here and sharing your views. And thank you all for attending the talk. Thanks.